live virtually from the Florida State University College of Law Black Alumni Network. It's 2023, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, law students and alumni. Thank you for tuning into the Black Alumni Network TV, where every month or so we try to feature someone from the Florida State University Black Alumni Network family. And I have with me this evening, you need to make sure that you have a notepad ready, especially for all current and future law students, and maybe even a few young lawyers to hear from my good friend, my president of the Student Bar Association. He is definitely a few days before my fraternity, so I'm going to give him that on '06. The Honorable David Akintode. Welcome, my brother. Good to hear you.
Thank you so much. Good to see you.
Good to see you, man. Good to see you. How's the weather in Tallahassee in this January 2023?
It's crazy. We just had a tornado warning today, right? So it's
Wow.
very gloomy. Hopefully, we're gonna see better days, God willing. But it's nothing that we can't get through.
Thank you for everyone for tuning in. Apologies for the slight delay, but this will be on full rebroadcast on the Florida State University Black Alumni Network Facebook page and also on our YouTube page. So you can drop any comments that you want in the chat. We're happy to answer them here for you live on BANtv. So let's get into it, David. I see you have your water or your coffee, or I don't know what type of Alpha Phi Alpha libation you have in that cup. But
No, just water, just water.
excellent, excellent. Listen, man, first and foremost, let me just ask, coming out of this pandemic and getting back into the swing of things and get into a rhythm, how are you feeling? Tell us what's your emotion right now? What's your state of mind as a law student, just as a young man trying to make his mark in this world?
Absolutely. So I feel rather hopeful now. There's faculty and staff here at FSU College of Law I did a tremendous job of making sure that though we were meeting each other for the first time via Zoom, though we were seeing each other in person with masks on, I didn't really know who you were. I've never seen you before in my life. We made a transition now to where you get some sense of normalcy on the campus. So that gave me the hope to feel comfortable to understand that I'm actually experiencing the actual law school experience. I've heard stories from alumni. They talk about getting free food over in the main campus building, and that we weren't privy to my first year. Right, my free food came from whatever I had in the refrigerator, and it wasn't free. So I guess now being able to go to events in person, meet my other law students, faculty, and whatnot, it's a very warm and welcoming feeling. So I feel pretty promising, and I feel pretty good about where I am now. I'm ready to move on to the next chapter.
Excellent, man. Well, listen, man. Let's take a little step back and give the folks a little bit about your background. Tell us a little bit about the David Akintode story. Give us a little history on the surname, and maybe a little Black history may be helpful.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Well, it's funny enough. I try to tell people what my entire name means. My first name is David, which is my grandfather, who was a doctor and a lawyer in Nigeria. I
Okay.
proudly,
So
say that.
we're in Nigeria, because that's like the United States. That's like there's a difference between
Exactly, right?
Florida and Illinois. So give us some
Exactly.
perspective.
Yeah. So Lagos, right? So it's basically the city, right? And my dad also spent time in Ibadan, which is another bigger city, New York and Chicago, essentially. So my grandfather, doctor and a lawyer, my middle name Oladapo, which means wealth has been mixed together. That's my father's name, who's a doctor. So if you can see, it played out well. My dad is a doctor. Myself, I'm going to be a lawyer. And we got that from my grandfather, who was both a doctor and a lawyer. So in some way, we're
Fancy.
keeping the family. And last name is the great one has returned again, Akintode, which is Yoruba tribe, a tribe in Nigeria. And I say that
Which
proudly.
tribe? Which tribe is that?
Yoruba tribe.
Yoruba. Okay, so it's David Alodipo
Not the
Oladapo Akintonde.
Akintode, yes.
David Alodapo Akintonde.
There we
Okay.
go. Yeah.
Wow, that's
Mhm.
powerful. So tell us a little bit about where the family, how they came from Lagos to the United States of America. Where did they settle?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so my dad left Nigeria when he was, I believe, 23 years old. Came straight to Chicago, and he was lucky enough to meet the beautiful woman that is my mother, where they got married. They had my two.
Nigerian as well.
No, she's Southside Chicago. So yeah,
Southside.
so she's as Chicago as it gets. So it's a beautiful mixture. Imagine a Nigerian and Chicago household. That you get me. So I guess they didn't go too wrong. So I have two older twin sisters, Amani and Kaya, and I have a younger brother who's in school actually in London. So our family started in New York to Chicago, New York and back and forth. My dad went to medical school, joined the military, and then I end up in Okinawa, Japan at the age of 5. And while I'm out there, I'm going to Singapore, Australia, South Korea, Tokyo at such a young age and not really understanding the subliminal message that I'm learning. And that is, the universal language of culture, right? And just understanding how everything mixes together.
Right.
And so that was a beautiful thing, being able to have a passport, at the age of 5, and I'm seeing all the stamps of what I have. And
Wow.
I get back to the States. This is probably 2005, where I go to Pensacola, Florida.
Okay.
If you could imagine, it's a very different environment, Pensacola, Florida.
Yeah.
I tell the story all the time. The first time I saw the Confederate flag was when I was in Pensacola. And my mom had to explain to me what that was. That's not the American flag that I see in my textbooks. And she has to give me the history of that. And again, I'm learning a subliminal message of, the racial history that we had in America. And that's when once I came back from another country where I didn't really know, I was a black kid, where you come to Pensacola, Florida, and you realize, okay, there are different plays as to, how you're viewed in certain scopes.
Right.
Ends of of the world. So all necessary lessons.
How did those world experiences influence or inform who you were as a child?
So again, I said I grew up in a Nigerian and Chicago household, so it's very strict on education. A very manner interdependent environment. I could give you a million lessons that my mother and father always gave me. Stay ready so you don't have to get ready. Always be prepared for whatever happens. Anything that you do is good. It's not what you're doing. It's what God gave you the ability to do. These are things that I've learned and I got to cultivate. And then when I'm in Japan and I see how strict they are with education, we have school on Saturday. You understand that, okay, this is something that this could be used as a tool or a vehicle to take you to a place you never thought you could go. When I go to Pensacola, Florida, I understand that there are different social and economic statuses amongst individuals that look like you and I, right? And I understand that there are certain ways that you have to conduct yourself in different environments. It's a unspoken language that you pick up on relatively quick, going from being the only American and the only African American amongst Asian students, and then switching over to being in a room with a kid from Pensacola, Florida, that grew up there his entire life, and that's all he knows. It's a way you have to work and shift and understand what your identity is and how it's an evolving thing, no matter the environment you're in. I think that's what I use in any room that I'm in now. It's the way that I can connect with anybody, really, wherever you're from, wherever your nationality is. We have something that we can connect on. So I kind of use that to guide my relationships with people.
So how did the kids react to you when you got back? What was your interaction? David Oladapo, Akintode, in Pensacola, what was that interaction like?
Yes, it's obviously because I played football growing up, and my younger brother, his Christopher Olujimi Akintode, right? And I remember we played on the same team, and our coach would always call my brother Lou. Oh, Lou, come here. Now I'll never forget, my mom came and said his name is Olujimi. If you can't say it, just say Christopher. If you can't say Christopher, just say Chris, right? And then she told me at that point, never lose your identity, never diminish your light in whatever room you're in. So it was hard for them to, you're growing up in Pensacola, Florida. It's very rare that you're running into David Oladapo Akintode, right? But with everything, you give them patience, give them grace, and let them know, learn my name. I'll correct you every chance I get. but understand where I come from and how I add value to the society that we're in. So it was
Yeah.
never it wasn't like I felt threatened by it. I stood firm in who I was. I let them know who I was. So it was a relatively smooth transition.
All right. So you finished high school in Pensacola, and
In
then went
Pensacola,
off to Pensacola, and then went off to undergrad where?
I spent a year at Troy in Alabama, where I was playing football, and then I shifted over and went to FAMU. And the best to me, I say this all the time. I'm forever in debt
Yeah.
to FAMU
You went you went
because
to you went to the transfer portal.
not even right. I knew when I got there, right? I knew when I got there. I looked around and I saw all they had was a Walmart and a Piggly Wiggly. I said, "This is the last time I will be here." And no knock to anybody from Troy. I'm sure you enjoy it. I have a lot of good friends that are still there, but it just wasn't quite the fit for me. And I left and went to what is the esteemed University of FAMU. So
And you saw Walmart and the Piggly Wigglies in Tallahassee.
exactly. Well, the Piggly Wiggly in Tallahassee, yeah, Governor Square Mall, right? It was a mall, so we stepped up a bit,
Right. And what was that? What was that What was that? What was the difference of the campus culture?
If night and day, right? So
Yeah.
I go from being a minority in every classroom to walking into a classroom and seeing the teacher who looks like me, looking to the
Mm.
left, seeing a woman who looks like me, looking to my right, seeing the exact same thing, and the sense of pride and just being comfortable in that environment that molded me to be who I am now, to speak out against things that I don't necessarily agree with, to have a voice even when I
Mm.
feel like I should be saying something. I feel the moral obligation to do so, and I act on it. Just to be involved in community, to understand we lift each other up. We're only as best as our weakest link. That's kind of an
Mm.
act I learned while at FAMU, and I've carried that with me everywhere I
Right.
go.
So where was the first seed that was planted that law school was a possibility?
Great question. So as I told you, my dad's a doctor. So I came to FAMU. I said, my dad's a doctor. I'm going to be a doctor. I take chemistry. I get through. I go to organic chemistry,
Right.
and I look around and I say, my dad. I said, my grandfather was a lawyer, wasn't he? And I feel like I like to argue a lot. My mom could attest to that. So I said, okay, how can I switch this up? And Nigerian culture is either doctor, lawyer, engineer, or business school. So I said, doctor, not for me. I'm going to go ahead and try law school. And I was already advocating. So I used to walk around with voter registration forms in my backpack while I was on FAMU. I wanted people to understand the impact of voting, right? And how we vote on the sheriff, and the sheriff is the one that literally have the interaction with the people at a stoplight, whatever it may be, and just the political power that we had as law students, especially in Tallahassee. And so by doing that, I was galvanizing people, and I quickly saw that whenever Amendment 4 passed, this is a law, right? And how does this law get implemented? It has to go through the legislator. So I said I need to get a part of law and just figure out how I could make my stamp or do something in that realm. And that's what it was. I shifted from med school and just figured it was a natural move for me to go to law school. And here I am.
Wow. So how did you start to prepare yourself to apply to law school? Where did you apply? How did you get yourself in that mindset? You're already at Florida A&M, which in fact was one of the first one of the law schools in the state of Florida. Did you understand that history, and then how did you start to prepare yourself to apply?
Absolutely. So every day I walked from the parking garage over to what was called Benjamin Banneker. Oh, excuse me, Perry and Young. And you go to Perry, not Perry, but Perry Hall. I go to Perry, and every day I walk by College of Law. And I'm like, why is College of Law on the library at FAMU campus? Like, I don't see a law school. Our law school's in Orlando. And I start to hear, you go to your professors and you talk about history and African American history, and you talk about how FAMU was the first law school in Tallahassee. And unfortunately, after a certain legislative move that our law schools moved elsewhere, and they still kept it up there. And it was recently honored for the first Black lawyers in the state of Florida came out of FAMU. Just understanding that's where I came from. I knew that I had to move in a manner that was conducive to make those people proud and carry on the torch as such. So I didn't want to rush into it. I wanted to get some real life experience. So I shifted off after FAMU and I went to work for a super PAC. And I advocated on all levels. So I did voter registration. I did doors. I did protests. I did campaigns. I did lobbying at the Capitol. And from there, I got a little bit too comfortable, my dad would say. And then I said, it's time to transition to actually start going to law school. And
So,
turning out my
all right, let me pause you there. So, Nigerian dad, doctor. I want you to give me your best Dr. Akintode voice when he told you that you needed to slow your roll. Give it to me.
because he goes, because I'm telling, hey, Dad, yeah, because I moved up ranks. I'm a field organizer. Hey, Dad, I'm a regional director. Are you going to be a politician? And I'm like, I said, no, Dad, I'm getting paid a lot more money. This. He says, go to law school. Go somewhere else. Like, you need to go do something. And then from that point, I literally run. Okay, I start looking at schools. I started looking up everything, and I got my options. And I applied. You know, the fear of my father struck me into FSU law school. So that's the sole reason why I'm here.
You not gonna be no.
Exactly.
So how did you decide now to pick which law schools to apply for, getting your personal statement, your applications together? Give us some for the that young person that's on campus with a voter registration form or walking by the library, contemplating their next move, maybe even changing their major from economics to studying law, or changing the major from medicine. What advice would you give to that young person trying to make that big choice and then preparing themselves to actually make that choice a reality?
The biggest thing is lean on those that are already there, right? Because I feel like I took advantage of that. Louis Baptiste, who was a great mentor of mine, I met him while I was at FAMU. He was an integral part in getting me, hey, you need to take the LSAT, you need to study for this, you need to do that. So much to where I pay it forward by, I meet with FAMU students often all the time, and I tell them, hey, I have class this day, this day, this day. Come sit in the classroom with me. Like, see that cold call, see that teacher, and talk to them afterwards. Ask whatever questions you want to make it feel real, right? So easy to say you want to do it, but once you take that step into the law school and see all the people walking around, going into classes, seeing your professor cold calling, you then realize, okay, I'm here. I'm meant to be here. This is what I'll do. So obviously, study for that LSAT, do what you have to do. Personal statement, make connections, network, have that attorney that can write that letter for you, that could tell you when you apply at this time, because this is when the most money will be there for you. Those little things that they can help you with to allow you to make the smooth transition. So the biggest thing now is to reach out to any Black lawyer in your community and ask them for advice, because I haven't failed yet. You know, every time I reached out to you when I was in South Florida, and you gave me as much advice as you could, and you helped me out, and you let me know what to do, where to go, how to transition to a new city. Reach out to those that came before you, because 10 times out of 10, they'll be the ones to give you all the advice you need and help you and make it extremely real process. It's a thought in your mind.
How many law schools did you apply to?
I applied to three.
And how did you come down to making the final decision that Florida State was going to be the one, and what was the difference maker?
So the biggest thing, I applied to 2 schools in Chicago. I got into both, and just the rent, you know, the housing in Chicago is crazy, right? And I've been in Tallahassee from FAMU. I worked here in politics. I have a lot of connections here. And then the biggest thing, honestly, was the fact that FSU seemed like a more family-oriented environment, right? Like, just a little touch of getting a call and saying that you got into the school, right? That's something that's where I'm not just going to send you a letter. I'm going to let you know, hey, congratulations, you're a part of the thing. You want to be a part of it. So that's what really changed me. And I see all the attorneys that went to FSU and how they give back to it. And it was a no-brainer once I got the call, because I wanted to be a part of that. I see all the great things that happened here. Those that came here, left, and done such amazing things, they never get too big to help out Florida State. And so to be a part of that family, I felt like it made the most sense, and it worked out perfectly for me.
So you drive across town to one of the other hills in Tallahassee, and you end up on campus. Your first Your first week, your first month. Tell us how you made that adjustment from the undergraduate culture to the law school culture, and how did you settle in?
Yeah, so as we spoke about earlier, it was, COVID year, right? So this is, March 2020, everything shuts down.
Wow.
And then I'm applying in July, I get accepted. And my classes are, I have two classes online and I have two classes in person, but the in-person classes, you're spread out. It's the fear of what was COVID. I don't want to shake your hand. I don't want to be too close to you. So it wasn't a smooth transition into coming in and really networking with those that you are going to be with for the next 3 years.
Yeah.
It was just a matter of just trying to find new ways, right? It was hopping on Zoom calls, or if we did social distancing at a bar or something, going out and meeting your friends there, and just trying to influence yourself and step out of your comfort zone, just to meet people, right? And I think that was the biggest part about it was whenever I got to FSU, I knew I wanted to connect with those that I was going to be in law school with because we're all going to leave law school and do great things. I want to make sure that we all do it together. So I made sure that anytime there was an event that I could go to or some time to go talk to someone or sit down and talk, I did it. And I just never said no to any opportunity, essentially.
Right. How did you who did you identify as part of your immediate support system within the law school to help you acclimate into this new study environment?
Oh yeah, so I think it was Balsa, right? Like I came to law school. They had the brunches, we had the socials, and there you met with them, and these are individuals that know exactly what you're going through, that could tell you exactly what you need to do, and just give you that guidance. So leaning on them, Danica, Destiny, Chris, Landis, all these people, Shayna Ruth, who were doing great things in the law school and went ahead and did what they had to do before us. They were the ones that reached back and pull us up with them. It was never just I'm a tool now. You have to get it on your own. It's okay. You're here now. This is what you need to make sure that you're successful in this university or in this college.
So BALSA is one of many organizations on campus. Tell us what was your first introduction and interaction with the Student Bar Association for the entire law school, which includes the entire multicultural law school community. Tell us a little bit more about what the association is and what its responsibility is.
Sure. So, the 1L year, they had a advertisement for a 1L rep for SBA. And so me not knowing what SBA is, I look and I'm like, what is this? Like, I don't understand everybody was so gung ho on doing it and figuring out, just to join and be a rep. I just sat back and I learned after the fact that SBA is the organization that literally ties everyone together, right? And I went through, it was the social, we got our 1L year, this is a different part about it. They usually have a springtime social, but this particular time you had to do it separately because there was a limit on how many people could be at an event because of COVID. So I went to, it was a fall social, and just being able to see colleagues who I never would have met but for this interaction, right? I met a good friend who I started to work out with every day in the semester while there. He was in a different section. I met another guy who was a Marine stationed in the same base that my dad was in Hawaii, right? Like this is just basically, he was in that section. That was solely because SBA set up the platform for all of us to get together, to connect and meet and exchange experiences and grow from that and make this process, as grueling as it is, a lot more tolerable and a lot more enjoyable. So that's essentially what SBA is, to combine and collaborate everything with every unique piece of cloth that we have here at the law school and make sure that we're all moving in a cohesive unit.
Mm-hmm. What was your first leadership role that you volunteered for with SBA to get within that community of law students?
Yeah, so the biggest thing, it wasn't with SBAs particularly, it was with LSC, so the Law School Council, which essentially controls all the money that comes to the law school. RSOs request funding from the LSC, and I was a vice chair of that. And while on that role, I got to see what was being requested, and what events are going on. And so by me approving and doing the request, I got to see I need to be at this event. This event's going on this day. I want to go here. And oftentimes it was SBA throwing the big events, right? They were throwing the socials, they were throwing the community fund runs, they were doing the carnivals, right? And this is all things to where you could go and just interact with those that were SBA. And from there, I realized that this was an amazing organization because of the pool that it had in terms of reaching everyone. There wasn't anyone that's left outside of the arm's length of that what is SBA. So seeing that, I realized that it's definitely something that I could use to implement and make everyone's voices feel heard, even if they didn't feel so, and just try to collaborate, make sure that everyone was part of the culture that was FSU Law.
So, David, you clearly stepped into your voice on campus there, whether through the SBA or BLSA. Some students or persons who are going into law school are trying to find their voice, just trying to figure out how to study and adjust to this type of training, this type of learning environment. How do you balance trying to find your voice in the books and the academics and trying to find your voice with extracurricular stuff on campus? And is that balance necessary for a wholesome law school experience, or it depends on the person? Tell me about that.
Yeah, I would want to err on the side to say that it depends on the person, but for me, I think you have to have interactions with your colleagues, right? Because the people because I can imagine the people that you went to law school with, you're extremely close with them now. They're doing great things. They're making strides in the legal community. But imagine if you just never did anything, where you just went to school, studied your books, got great grades. That's an amazing thing to do, but yet you don't know anybody, right?
Yeah. Sean Pittman, Ben Crump.
Exactly.
These are colleagues that are
heavy hitters. These are people that are. You say their name, and everyone knows it. Not just in Florida, but across the the state, globally. So it's just the fact of you need to have. Obviously, you want to be able to get your reason for being here is to learn the law and understand what you're doing and how to implement that to pass that bar, that ever so daunting bar at the end of your legal career. But another aspect of that is meeting individuals that are along with the journey with you and are going to go out and make lasting changes that you want to make as well. So that's where the balance occurs, right? Study your grades, do what you have to do, but go ahead and get into a study group, right? Go ahead and talk about these theories, the black letter law, and understand how it works amongst each other. And after the fact, go ahead and grab a drink, and share stories about where you come from, what you worry about, what you want to do, what you vision for all of us doing together. That's the wholesome law school experience. You have to have the perfect balance.
Awesome. Well, listen, we talked about who first, or how the first seeds were planted with you getting into law school or going to law school. How were the first seeds planted that you could potentially lead the Student Bar Association, and then how did it actually manifest itself into you now being the president of the SBA?
Very true. I think this is my 3 year.
I mean, did you have to open a super PAC or campaign account?
No money was used to get this position. I want to say that on the record right now. So essentially, I had friends that came to me and said, David, you should run for SBA president. This is the fall semester of my 2L year. It's like, yeah, you're funny. I'll see you later, right? You move forward, and then another.
My name is Oladapo, not David.
Exactly, right? Yeah, Oladapo. I don't know who David is. David should run. I know a few Davids that should run. Oladapo doesn't want to, right? And so I keep going through law school, and then another person, David, you should really consider doing it. And then it's that bug that, you start thinking about it a little bit more, right? And you envision what could happen if I was to get the position. What change would you want to make? Are you doing this for the title, or are you doing it for the actual work? That was a question I always asked myself. If it was for the title, I wouldn't have done it, right? It was to make sure that the only reason I would run is if I could know that I was going to impact a level of change that could really make everyone's experience that much more enjoyable, right? So once I realized that I could have the vision to do it, it clicked that, hey, let's run it. Let's see what we can do and make it happen. And God willing, I got through there, went through the election.
Did you get nominated? Did you get nominated? Did you have to campaign?
Yeah,
Did you have opposition?
Yes, I did. So I was in Tampa at the YLD conference, and it was they submitted. That was the same day that you had to go to the interest meeting to run for president and any other position in SBA. I couldn't go, and my girlfriend at the time went for me, got the information, and while I'm in a meeting, I get a email sent to me with yeah, basically I have to get a petition signed. I think it was 30 signatures or whatnot. It was a Google Doc with I believe 45 or 50 signatures already signed to my email. At that point, I was like, I guess this is real. I submit my statement, I start, and I ran against two other individuals, great candidates who were in SBA that did a lot of great work prior to me joining. And luckily, I got through the first round and the second round.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. How did that make you feel that you in terms of just getting the affirmation from your peers across the board, irrespective of background, irrespective of the year that they're in, right? Because this is the SB of the entire law school.
Exactly. Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Every law student on campus votes, right? Or has the right to vote. What was
Yes,
the voter turnout?
Yeah, so the voter turnout was really good, right? I was surprised to when I saw the results and I saw the margin. I was extremely surprised, humbled, but I felt good. I felt comfortable in the sense that the people entrusted me to make sure that I could make their last for the 2Ls at the time. That was going to be their last year. They're with me. They're 3Ls. For the 1Ls, they wanted to make their 2L year as enjoyable as possible. So getting that affirmation, it really put another battery in my back to ensure that I could continue to work and work really hard, not take any time off, to ensure that everyone's heard, everyone's talked, everyone's included, LLM, JM, whatever you may be. If you're enrolled at FSU College of Law, you have a say so. I try to walk around as much to get anybody's opinion, to see how they're doing, go out to grab lunch, dinner, whatever it may be, just to let them know, like, I'm not, this president stuff is cool, but at the same time, I'm still just a law student with you. And I want to, break bread with you, talk with you, and just understand your experience and ensure that, everything is moving smoothly as possible.
Right. Trust is such a big part of our profession, whether between clients or the community or whether or not you're before a board of directors or you're before the court. What did you say to your peers as law students? What did you entrust to them as their SBA president? What was it that you committed to them?
Yeah, so the biggest thing was I wanted to amplify the voices of all law students, right? Because there was often times where I would hear certain people weren't getting their voice necessarily heard in certain issues, and it was a more so it was a battle to make sure things were happening, right? And so my biggest thing
was this because of the pandemic, or this was just a general sentiment that you felt that was pervasive throughout the law school campus?
It was mostly because of the pandemic, and honestly, it was trying to figure out the transition, right? Because when you're just now transitioning back to in person, it's hard to focus on transitioning into in person and including everybody, every RSO with you. So my biggest thing was I don't think there's an event we ever said no to, right? If you want to collaborate on an event, let's do it, right? If there's HLSA, if there's BLSA, if there's APALSA, all these individuals that have something to bring to the table, us as SBA, we're supposed to be charged with amplifying their voice to ensure that everyone knows about what's going on and how they can learn or experience or kind of sharpen their knowledge on another culture or another aspect or another topic or another issue that circled around the law. So that's the biggest thing that I wanted to make for them and ensure that, obviously we want to have our fun and have a good time, but work hard, play hard. That's kind of to be the motto.
So what kind of budget did the SBA have?
Budget, it's a good one, I would say. I don't want to drop a figure. We're very fortunate that the past president, Landon Sanderson, and what they did, the past SBA board, they did an amazing job with their outreach, their fundraising, to where we were in a great spot. And obviously, we have the funding from the colleges of graduate studies. So it's a lot of ways you can implement a lot of different things. And clearly, there's still a need for more money. We're going to try to figure out the best way to ensure that everyone's comfortable and feeling good for the next board coming up next year. But right now we're doing really well.
So your term ends when?
My term ends the moment I cross the stage, right? But voting occurs late February, early March for the next board.
Okay. So what are the three things that you're working on now that you hope to be the Akintode legacy with the SBA from your term?
For sure. So number one, a big thing that I want to do is implement a bar prep scholarship for the 3Ls. It's, as you know, going through the bar it's daunting and it's pricey, right? Professor Gibbs, all the bar prep teachers that we have here, they tell us the number, and that number seems like it gets bigger and bigger every time they show it. So I want to implement something that will allow the 3Ls to feel a little bit less of a burden whenever it comes to doing bar prep.
Okay.
Two is implement more networking events to where individuals that are going to be in Tallahassee can network with the Tallahassee lawyers, right? And if even those that want to go to Miami, that want to go to Orlando, implementing something that could allow them to reach out and tap into that community, so that it's not just you're going from a blank space. Like for me, if I want to go to Miami, I know I could call on Marlon Hill and he's going to make sure I'm okay. This is something that I've learned from way back when, right? So I want to make that transition a lot easier for those that are in law school. And lastly, I just want to have, barristers, which is one of the biggest events to where the entire law school comes together and really solidify the last big event that is law school. And I want to make sure that, everyone can go there and not worry about the tickets too high, things of that nature. It's affordable for everyone. Everyone can come, enjoy themselves, and really bask in the moment that is one of the last moments for the 3Ls, our last moments together in a really social and casual setting. And for the 1Ls and 2Ls, for the 1Ls, an introduction as to what they're going to be doing, and the 2Ls just keeping along
right.
Tradition that is barristers.
Well, we're pleased to report that BAN, the Black Alumni Network, we're going to be establishing a mentoring program where law students will be able to be matched up with a BAN alumni member. So stay tuned for that. One of our board members, Ken Pratt, is working on that, and President Conti Moore has a lot more in store in regards to trying to deepen the relationship between the alumni and the law school community and the faculty as well. So, as we wind down here on BANtv, David, what's up in the next chapter for David Oladapo Akintode? What's the next chapter in this book?
Yes, so I'm leaving. I think I'm gonna leave Tallahassee and land in Orlando. I got an offer from a firm there. I'll do some litigation work. Again, thanks to BLSA, my 1L year, I did mock trial. And that bit the bug. I fell in love with what litigation was. So I'm gonna be doing litigation, and honestly, just continuing to connect. I'm never gonna just leave the FSU law community. I'm always gonna be here. I'm gonna be joining BAN as soon as I cross that stage, right? So
immediately, man. It's like jumping the broom.
Exactly, right. So I'll be right there on the other side, and obviously implementing a lot of great work and initiatives and helping out with whatever I can in the capacity as a BAN member. So that's the biggest thing now. I'm looking forward to it. It was a beautiful ride, a great experience, but definitely excited and eager for the next chapter.
Excellent, man. But listen, as we wind down as well, before we let you go, any parting messages that you want to make to the law school community as from the president's desk?
Absolutely. Biggest thing is understanding the unique and distinct privilege we have to walk in these halls. Never feel like we're above anybody, never feel like we're beneath anybody. Understand that it's our job and our duty to give a voice to the voiceless, hope to the hopeless, and strength to those that are weak. Never shy away from that mentality. Never think that you're bogged down and you're too engulfed in your work. We're people, we're in a people business, right? We need to affect people and affect positive change. And so to all those other students that are watching right now, continue to keep foot on the gas. And I understand that you're probably feeling daunted right now, but the best is yet to come, and we're all here together and we'll all move further together than we do apart. So let's continue to unify, amplify each other's voices, and make this ride the best one we can.
And how can any current or future law students get in touch with you, follow you, and reach out to you directly? What's the best way?
I'll gladly give my number out because I'm best on my number. My number is 312-502-2457. If you want to send me, I often review undergrad students' personal statements. If you're an undergrad, you want to send me a personal statement, just in the subject line, say personal statement, send it, attach it there, and send it to doa20b@fsu.edu.
Okay.
And obviously Instagram is DAVOLADAPO, Davo Oladapo, and that's on Instagram. And Facebook, you can see me, David Akintode.
LinkedIn.
Unique, yeah, and LinkedIn as well, David Akintode.
Well, listen, man, David Oladapo Akintode, all the way from Lagos, straight through Asia, straight through Pensacola, all the way to the highest of Seven Hills.
There we
Thank
go.
you for stepping into your voice, elevating your own voice, elevating other voices on campus at Florida State University College of Law. Wish you the best on the rest of your tenure as president of the SBA and just as a law student in your next chapter in being a trial lawyer in Orlando. Look forward to welcoming you as a member of the BAN network. Thank you for kicking off our new year with such energy and passion and inspiration. We wish you the best of luck in the rest of the semester.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Excellent, man.
Take care, everyone.